You're listening to China Africa Talk.
Jambo, ni Bridget akikuletea kipindi kinachohusiana na China na Afrika.
Vous écoutez le dialogue sino-africain avec Bridget.
Everything China, everything Africa.
Olá, você está ouvindo China Africa Talk com Bridget.
سيداتي وسادتي مرحبا بكم في الحوار الصيني العربي مع بريدجيت.
The 8th China International Import Expo, or CIIE, has set a new record in both exhibition area and exhibitor numbers. The latest edition of the world's first national-level import-themed expo has attracted over 4,000 exhibitors from 155 countries, regions and international organizations, with the total exhibition area exceeding 430,000 square meters. African participation has seen notable growth, with 17 countries joining the country exhibition and an 80% year-on-year increase in the number of participating businesses. As Africa's largest trading partner for 16 consecutive years, China is committed to expanding market access for African countries. This year, the CIIE launched a special section for the least developed countries' products alongside an upgraded African product section, helping African businesses leverage zero tariff treatment to enter the vast Chinese market. An African proverb wisely states, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." So, how has the CIIE served as a gateway to Africa's growth and innovation, and how is it forging a shared future for China and Africa? To delve into this topic, I'm now joined by Michelle Umurungi, Chief Investment Officer of the Rwanda Development Board, Maria Emmanuel, Senior Trade Advisor for the Namibian Agronomic Board, and Kupakwaishe Midzi, Client Advisor of the Export Development Department of Zimtrade. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you for having me, and it's good to be here.
My pleasure.
You've all flown in from your respective countries to Shanghai to attend the 8th CIIE. Could you perhaps give us an overview of the African pavilions at the CIIE, including the project genre and notable participating companies from your respective countries?
Thank you for that. So based on what I've seen, the pavilions that are being represented from African countries actually present for quite a vibrant showcase. And from what I can see, they seem to represent Africa's creativity, resourcefulness, and innovation. And their displays are quite a rich variety of products, from agricultural produce to premium beverages and wines, essential oils, processed foods, you name it. And they come also bearing some investment portfolios in other sectors as well.
Okay.
As Zimbabwe, we have 15 companies that are exhibiting under the Zimbabwe Pavilion.
Okay.
But to top off that, we actually have an equally same number of companies that unfortunately could not get space to exhibit. So we also have about 15 non-exhibiting companies that still decided to come through to CIIE to explore some of the opportunities. So for those that are exhibiting under the Zimbabwe Pavilion, I can say we are proud to exhibit some of our premium horticultural products, some of our rich and natural teas, leather products, and as well as fine crafts that are reflecting our country's growing export diversification portfolio.
And how about with Rwanda? What notable participating companies are joining us this time around at the CIIE 2025?
So the energy is vibrant here at CIIE. There's a couple pavilions hailing from African countries, and particularly for Rwanda, we're here with a dozen companies. They brought some products from Rwanda to exhibit and hopefully get our entrance or footing in the Chinese market. Amongst some of the few products we have are coffee, our tea, and honey. These are some of the products that we've tried and tested over the last couple of years, and we see that the Chinese market or the Chinese consumers are agreeing with the taste of these products, and so we're hoping to increase our trade with China.
And how's the situation like with Namibia?
No, thank you very much. Namibia specifically participated for the first time last year.
Okay.
And overall, this is an opportunity for Africa to deepen mutual understanding, of course, and achieve a win-win cooperation with China. The country pavilion provides African countries an important platform to showcase their overall image and explore opportunities in trade and investment. And of course, especially with Namibia, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, what we call the MSMEs, are taking center stage. And this is really to afford them an opportunity to showcase their product and to network, and of course to take opportunity in accessing one of the biggest market in the world, the Chinese market.
Right. Still holding on to you there, Ms. Emmanuel, how are the general trade relations between Namibia and China? Are there any latest developments?
Yes, definitely. The trade relations between Namibia and China have been growing over the years. China is one of Namibia's largest trading partners. During 2024, Namibia registered a trade surplus with China, driven mainly by natural resources. When you look at the import side, almost 100% of its import is value added goods from China. If you look at also in terms of expansion, Namibia signed a trade cooperation agreement with China in 2018, and we sent our first consignment of beef to China in 2019.
Okay.
Of course, this Namibia secured beef market, expanding trade relations in the agriculture sector. And last year, we registered about 600 tons of beef exported to China.
Okay.
We are also exporting fishery products, mainly lobsters. And last year, we exported about 137 tons to China. And as we speak, we are currently finalizing our trade cooperations on table grapes, on citrus, blueberries. So this is what we call high value horticulture products from Namibia, as well as fisheries products. Some of the cooperations that the two countries need to agree on, especially when it comes to agriculture trade, it's really driven by, sanitary and phytosanitary measures.
Yes.
And the two countries are now busy sort of ironing out how all these products should be traded when it comes to standards. So the hope is that maybe by the next FOCAC, we should be able to sign about 4 trade corporations with China for us to expand our agriculture market access to China.
Ms. Umurungi, Rwanda has participated in all the 8 editions of CIIE so far. How significant is this expo to Rwanda, and do you have any cases where companies and exhibitors from Rwanda have grown from participants into investors, or where previous exhibits from Rwanda have been transformed into marketable goods through the CIIE platform?
Yes, absolutely. So in terms of numbers, I would say that today, when we look back a number of years ago, it has increased about 22.5%. And this is thanks to platforms like CIIE, where our products and they're appreciated, and we engage in the different protocols in terms of exports. And so what this platform offers to Rwanda is undeniable in terms of the size of the market, the appreciation of the goods from Rwanda. And so we can only hope that this trend continues upward.
Mr. Midzi, you're from Zimbabwe. What is the significance of CIIE to Zimbabwe? And following the signing of a blueberry export protocol during President Emmerson Mnangagwa's visit to China in September, are we likely to have blueberries from Zimbabwe at the expo? And what are the overall expectations of this product on the Chinese market?
Thank you for that. Believe you me, there's nothing I would have wanted more than to see our blueberries from Zimbabwe at this particular expo. But seeing as the protocol, yes, was signed in September, there's still some housekeeping issues that we are diligently working on, both Zimbabwe and China, to make sure that at least by the next coming CIIE, we'll start witnessing some of the Zimbabwean blueberries. But to answer your first question in terms of the significance, for us as Zimbabwe, we look at this showcase as quite an important event on our calendar as Zimbabwe, because it gives us an opportunity to continuously raise Zimbabwe's profile as a reliable exporter, and also it gives an opportunity for us to attract some Chinese investment and deepen our trade linkages with China, what also happens to be our long-standing partner going back eons of years.
Now, I'm going to ask all of you this question. A special section for the least developed countries' products was launched alongside an upgraded Africa products section, helping African partners leverage zero tariff treatment to enter the Chinese market. What impact has this had? I'll begin with you there, Ms. Emmanuel.
Yes, definitely. This zero tariff treatment for African products is a game changer, for, not only for Africa, but of course for global trade. And if you look at the global trade shift right now, what we've been experiencing, this is really, really a game changer for Africa to welcome zero tariff treatment. Africa has just started implementing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, what we call the AfCFTA, which aims to, of course, increase intra-Africa trade. But I think that it is also important for Africa to align the AfCFTA, not only within Africa, but also to leverage global markets such as the Chinese market.
Right.
And then basically with specific focus to stimulate MSMEs participation in global trade. The impact presented is really at a competitiveness level and access to cheap inputs required to stimulate value addition for African products in order to enter the Chinese market. So overall, an opportunity like this is actually supposed to stimulate back manufacturing into African nations as they try to create value-added products, and of course also look at trade in services as well, not just trade in goods, to expand beyond Africa. And also, I think most importantly, just to look at the Chinese market, one of the biggest markets in the world, but also offering duty free, looking at other markets that are charging duties.
Yes.
So you see the competitiveness that is immediately giving impact to businesses from Africa. So this for me is a big one for African countries and is an opportunity for us to attract investment, to leverage our innovation, and of course to align and just to increase the MSMEs participation in global trade generally.
And how about you, Mr. Midzi? What impact has the zero tariff treatment had on presence of companies from Zimbabwe participating this time around?
So the introduction of the 100% zero tariff policy is actually a very welcome initiative for Zimbabwean exporters because this preferential framework helps lower barriers and enhances our ability to showcase goods competitively. So I'll give an example. China's reporting emphasizes that this preferential treatment opens significant doors for African producers. This is from an article I actually read when I was traveling to China from Xinhua News this year. So from Zimbabwe's side, we've seen the increased interest from companies to actually engage with China, given this special section and preferential treatment. So as Zimbabwe, we see this dedication and commitment by China as an opportunity for us to even further enhance and work to ensure that our companies are also ready. So as Zimtrade, we are working diligently to also try and boost Zimbabwean businesses and their export readiness, because as you appreciate, China is a very, very huge market, which also has quite a number of its demands when it comes to quality standards. So as Zimtrade, we're also supporting Zimbabwean businesses to make sure that they meet this required quality packaging standards. And we're also using the CIIE platform to explore networking opportunities with the buyers, but not just the buyers, the distributors, as well as potential partners that can also enhance this quality and packaging standards that this market demands.
And how about with Rwanda? What has been the impact of the zero tariff treatment on the presence of companies participating from Rwanda?
So this zero tariff policy that China has extended to African countries, I believe that will increase the competitiveness of our products on the market. It certainly reduces the costs that our exporters have to incur. And so we believe that it's going to, as I said earlier, continue this upward trend that we see. And the cooperation I think China has extended through this policy, trust and openness to enter its market. And I think that reflects the theme of this 8th edition as well. A shared prosperity, an era where both China and the continent continue to share prosperity. And in the next months or so, we can expect another announcement in terms of a new product line that could be launched in this market as well.
Right.
So we're hopeful that this is indeed going to be a long-term cooperation and partnership.
Still on you there, Ms. Umurungi, a new section for overseas provinces and cities stands as another highlight. If maximized to full potential, how does this stand to benefit companies from your country down to grassroots level? And what should African countries in general be doing to tap into and benefit from this?
Good question. What I would say about that is, again, for us, it's access to a wider market. Didn't necessarily exist before. And the same way we're leveraging it today, it expands all the way down to grassroots level. As you said, a farmer, let's say, in a remote area in Kigali can suddenly grow, let's say, chili that will be aggregated by, a major distributor to access the different parts of this market. And so we see this as a wonderful opportunity to gain more share in this market and to include more and more farmers, let's say, particularly for agriculture products, or extend it to different product lines that didn't exist on the market before.
The 8th Hongqiao International Economic Forum convened simultaneously with CIIE under the theme Opening Up for New Opportunities, Cooperation for a Shared Future. Using African and Chinese pavilions as illustration, what new opportunities does your region present to China and vice versa? I'll refer this question to you, Mr. Midzi and Ms. Emmanuel. You're from the SADC region, the southern part of Africa. What new opportunities does your region present to China and vice versa? Maybe I'll begin there with you, Mr. Midzi.
No, definitely. The partnership, I'll say specifically between Zimbabwe and China, it actually offers a compelling example. You mentioned SADC. I think within SADC, it offers a compelling example of mutual opportunity for cooperation for a shared future, also going with the theme of this year's CIIE. So looking at from a China's perspective, Zimbabwe offers quite a vast and growing market, which is quite rich in natural resources. You can think of agricultural resources, minerals, and also has an increasing potential for value-added processing and enhancing the local supply chains. For example, as Zimbabwe, we're already making some waves in the global horticultural space with products such as blueberries that you mentioned earlier being amongst the most globally demanded superfood at the moment. Zimbabwean blueberries are among the most demanded blueberries the world over. Our exports currently stood at about 57 million in 2024, and it may seem relatively small, when we look at the Chinese market, but they've been growing at a compounded annual growth rate of around 38% over the past 5 years. And this in itself is how we're marketing ourselves as Zimbabwe is, Zimbabwe is the place to be if you're looking for an opportunity in the blueberry industry. And also looking at the other side from a Zimbabwean perspective, China remains an important destination market and as well technology partner and investor. And I think looking at the bilateral relations, according to Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, the Chinese firms accounted for more than 60% of all foreign investment approvals in 2024. And China is the largest investor country in Zimbabwe as we speak. Okay. And from a trade perspective, it's the third largest trading partner that we have as Zimbabwe. So definitely the theme resonates well with the relationships that we want to enhance this year and going forward.
And how about you, Miss Emmanuel?
So Africa, I think traditionally, we all know it, we have always traded in raw materials, whether it's in minerals or whether it's in agriculture. Even now at the EFCFTA, when we look at trading with each other, we talk about Africa having the same commodity. So we need to sort of upscale beyond that. So Africa now needs to prioritize value addition so that we can also be able to trade in value added goods in the global trade. This requires innovation and it requires technology as well as investment. So all these are opportunities of exchange between Africa and China. The global trade approach is shifting to a more balanced narrative. And I think such opportunity really is giving Africa at least to come to the center stage to drive its own narrative in how it wants to trade. But we should also not forget some of the competitive advantage that we have, especially when you look at the tourism sector. I think tourism has also emerged as a huge opportunity between Africa and China, and it's one of those things that we need to leverage as well. And this is really cutting into trading services. Most of the time, we do talk about trading goods. Yes, we want to manufacture because manufacturing provides jobs. It provides income for small businesses. But I think we have also a huge opportunity in trading services. The world is already at the trading services, and I think Africa should not be looking at this only in trading goods. We should be able to look at trading goods and trading services and to balance trade generally, and also not just to always be the receiver, but to also participate as an equal partner.
I'm going to ask you all this question. The HQF will host over 20 parallel sessions on revitalizing multilateral cooperation, empowering digital intelligence, green and sustainable development, and a more open China. Ms. Emmanuel, which one is an urgent priority to Namibia and why?
Well, we have a new government, we have a new president, and all these actually are all priorities that are aligning with our national development plans.
Okay.
Our president, Her Excellency Netumbonani Ndaitwa, has actually merged trade and international relation in one ministry. In the past, trade and international relations used to be two ministries, but in the new government, it's merged in an effort to align economic diplomacy functions and to deepen multilateral cooperation. So you can really see that as a priority, one of the priority for the new government. The FCFTA has also prioritized a digital trade protocol
Okay.
to facilitate interoperability within Africa's digital economy. Again, giving African countries commitment to leverage the digital economy, where we need to put in place regulations and frameworks that speaks to each other for us to actually leverage this. And of course, to green and sustainable development
Yeah.
is definitely at the center stage of Namibia's development, with the objective to balance economic growth
Okay.
with environmental protection and social equity. So Namibia has been investing a lot in green energy. We invest a lot in conservancy when it comes to the protection of environment. And we're actually one of the African countries that invest a lot in the social sector as well. And these are really where I saw that, to choose the priority, it actually speaks, all of it overall speaks to our national development plan as it is right now. And we are actually blessed to have a president who's hands-on and who wants to shift the direction of Namibia and also participating in Africa. She's also has become a powerhouse in Africa as well, where other African countries are drawing inspiration from her leadership.
Ms. Umurungi, your thoughts on this one? Which one is an urgent priority to Rwanda and why?
I think both are. Openness, we actually participated in the forum where we talked about openness and safe trade. Those are not two competing priorities. They complement each other. For one to do business or for one to trade, there has to be that openness, but there has to be a security around the protection of that investment or that trade relationship. And so I think both, they go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. Both are to us, both openness and safety. I don't think one can exist without the other.
Mr. Midzi.
Yeah, I would say from where I'm sitting, all the topics are quite appropriate and important to Zimbabwe. And I'll tell you why I say this.
Okay.
Zimbabwe is a waking giant, and we have been lying dormant for far too long. And I think already the signs are evident of our reemergence as a country. And but I mean, to maybe pick up some of the priority areas, some of these might be, the topic on green and sustainable development, and as well of course the one on more open China. Again, as you know, our economy is quite resource rich, but also vulnerable to issues of climate change and ecosystem risks. So as a country, therefore deliberately placing emphasis on climate smart agriculture, renewable energy, and as well as sustainable mining practices. And these topics then speak to a session on green and sustainable development. And then the session on a more open China obviously can never be emphasized enough, because for Zimbabwe, China has always been a market of interest for us. And this new strategic direction actually presents an opportunity for Zimbabwe to tap into, with the support and partnership of some of the already advanced Chinese entrepreneurs and businesses, which can ensure that this is achieved sooner rather than later.
Okay, just to wind off our discussion, the release of the World Openness Report 2025 and the latest World Openness Index is also another highlight. What is your comment on this report, and how can African participants continue to remain relevant in such expos at global level? I'll begin with you there, Ms. Emmanuel.
Yeah, I think when you look at the World Openness Report itself, or just even the World Openness Index, it's an important instrument in the global economy. It provides insight, of course, into global trends, into interconnectedness of countries in various sectors, particularly when we look at international trade, when you look at technology, and of course, culture. We forget that culture is a strong component, enabler, basically, to drive both trade and investment. So the report will highlight, of course, the importance also of transparency and collaboration and the inclusiveness of the changing world. So it's an important report that we look forward to too. Of course, this is the 2025, we have a 2024. So from Africa's participation to remain relevant, we should really be intentional. Africa should be intentional, especially looking at emphasizing our innovation, and building our partnerships through collaborations and forging meaningful networks, that can open doors for initiatives such as joint ventures, because trade is a two-way, and you need these joint ventures. If you want to import from Namibia, you need a partner in Namibia,
Yeah.
and vice versa. And finally, I think one of the low-hanging fruits for Africa is to leverage digital platforms to amplify African voices, African narrative, and African stories, driven by, of course, our innovation, and making them more accessible to the global audience. I think this is very critical for us as Africa. It's time. People are talking about that it's time for Africa. Africa has the youngest population in the world, and the young people brings innovation, they brings ideas. So we need to harness all these growth points that we have for us to be a world leader, not just a follower. As I said, I was listening to a podcast talking about how China basically in 3 decades moved from taking rules to disrupting the rules and to making the rules, where they were forced to do that because somehow they got into a position where they could not fit in the institutions that were created before.
Yeah.
So it helped them to shift the narrative, to change, to make the rules. And I think Africa also has an opportunity to do that, where we don't necessarily need to follow, but we also need to, to disrupt and to be able to change and to make our own rules. And we're a big continent, so I think hopefully we shouldn't take 3 decades. We should probably, I want us to take a decade. We've been taking a long time for us to actually shape the African narrative.
And what are your thoughts there, Mr. Midzi? What is your comment on this report, and how can African participants continue to remain relevant in such expos at a global level?
Yeah, definitely. I think the report itself, going through it brief as I may have, one thing I picked up that is important is that it highlights the importance of global prosperity, which is bolstered when markets remain open. We live in a global economy. Globalization is a very, very important topic. I know the world over is also the other issues going around in terms of, going against globalization. But from where we stand as Zimtrade, we welcome the existence of such frameworks because they reinforce the importance of trade and openness and export diversification, because we believe in one world, one economy. So opportunities exist in many different markets and many different countries. That as Zimbabwe, we are a very small country with a population of about 15 million people. So when you look at Zimbabwe as an economy in itself, most of the businesses, yes, when they are starting, they could look at the Zimbabwe country as a market. However, we believe that the business is out there in the rest of the world. So by aligning with global trends, African exporters, including Zimbabwean businesses, can also be perceived not just as commodity suppliers, but credible participants in a modern global value chain. So we do actually applaud and support China's leadership in promoting open trade and openness and this inclusive growth, and trying to make sure that they also take a part in ensuring Africa's growth, through initiatives such as the Belt and Road Initiative, as well as expos such as CIIE and CIIE, just to name a few. And I think we believe that regional integration under as well the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is the new kid on the block in terms of regional economic blocks. This also entails that Africa is taking a deliberate stance towards being more open to promote intra-Africa trade, and partnerships with countries such as China can also ensure that Zimbabwean businesses and other African countries can also play a major role in terms of promoting trade within the African continent.
Ms. Umurungi, your thoughts?
I think China has done a great deal in extending its hand to the African continent by pretty much putting in place a zero tariff policy. And that's something we can leverage compared to other markets that are currently, let's say, changing tariff schedules on a whim.
Yep.
So this is really one way for South-South cooperation to be strengthened and for African companies in particular to be open to new trade relations. I think China is setting a great example, and CIIE is a wonderful platform that brings in not just Chinese potential buyers, but global buyers as well. And you can see that China is playing a hub role. And if African companies can position themselves to gain from this, there's a lot to benefit both African companies and global markets.
Well, that brings us to the end of our discussion there. Mr. Midzi, Ms. Umurungi, and Ms. Emmanuel, thank you so much for your time and all the best at the 8th CIIE 2025.
Thank you very much, Bridget.
Thank you very much.
Listeners, you can subscribe to our online newsletter on CGTN or Substack to get more insights on China-Africa relations. Just search China-Africa Talk. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post it on social media or leave a rating and review. Thanks again. See you next time.